Disagree with the idea of unions, but perhaps for a reason that is different than people may expect, which is I just don't like anything which creates kind of a lords and peasants sort of thing.
Elon Musk has been dropping some truth bombs that shake up the traditional views on electric cars. We've been sold on the idea that these vehicles are the golden ticket to saving our planet, but Musk's perspective raises some serious questions about how we have been looking at EVs. So are EVs a scam? What exactly is this truth bomb that he exposed, and how does it affect you, the industry, and the future transportation? Is this the start of a new era? As the head at Tesla, Musk has been hailed as a pioneer, turning electric vehicles from niche options into the hot picks of the automotive scene. But recently, he's thrown a bit of cold water on the whole industry, questioning the direction it's headed. He's criticized government policies that favor electric cars while sidelining other technologies. His insights seem to resonate with a growing sentiment among consumers who push back against the idea that electric vehicles are the only answer to cutting transportation emissions. More importantly, alternative technologies are stepping into the limelight as strong contenders to battery electric vehicles. Take Toyota, for instance. They're diving deep into hydrogen fuel cells and ammonia-powered engines. These alternatives come with some pretty slick benefits. They are faster for refueling and have longer ranges. This could tackle major concerns like limited charging infrastructure and range anxiety. The emergence of such diverse automotive technologies signals a shift in thinking, acknowledging that a variety of options is crucial to meet different consumer preferences. Meanwhile, heavyweights in the auto industry like BMW, Porsche, Honda, and Mercedes are speaking up in the midst of the electric vehicle frenzy. These big players remind us that while electric vehicles have their pros, relying solely on them might unleash unexpected economic and environmental challenges. But how exactly? Let me break it down for you. And you just subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss out. The dirty secret behind EV cleanliness. Have you ever wondered why electric vehicles are all the rage when it comes to sustainable transportation? It seems like everywhere you turn, someone is raving about them, boasting about their zero emissions. But let me take you down a rabbit hole. This so-called promise of zero emissions is, quite frankly, a myth that needs serious examination. Sure, while EVs don't puff out harmful gases like gasoline-powered cars spewing fumes from their tailpipes, the truth is way more complicated than that. When we talk about emissions from EVs, we must recognize that these extend far beyond just the driving part. They include the vehicle's entire life cycle from the very moment it's manufactured all the way to its final disposal. You see, an electric vehicle might not let out a whiff of carbon dioxide while you're driving it, but let's not forget that making those batteries is no picnic and involves a ton of carbon dioxide emissions due to energy-intensive production processes and the extraction of resources. Sure, the battery packs a powerful punch, primarily made up of lithium, cobalt, and other rare earth elements. But extracting these materials, that's where things get messy and troubling. The mining for lithium and cobalt often takes place in delicate ecosystems. For instance, lithium mining can drain water supplies in dry regions and wreak havoc on local wildlife. Meanwhile, cobalt mining has a dark side, linked to serious human rights violations and significant environmental harm, especially in countries like the Democratic Republic of Congo. It's staggering to think about the carbon footprint tied to battery production. Producing just one EV battery can kick out as much as 200 kilograms of carbon dioxide. When you look at how many batteries are churned out annually, that number really starts to add up. Research has shown that it could take an electric vehicle approximately 15,000 miles to finally become cleaner than one running on gasoline, thanks to all those initial emissions from production. So much for the narrative that EVs are somehow magically clean right out of the gate. And you've probably heard the buzz about how an EV can make up for its hefty initial carbon footprint after hitting a certain mileage. It's often mentioned as a key factor in their appeal. But here's the rub. That estimate varies a lot depending on a range of factors. Many people suggest that an EV should drive about 50,000 miles to fully offset that carbon footprint. This calculation assumes, of course, that the vehicle gets its juice from renewable sources throughout its life. Sounds great, right? But reality check. Many areas still heavily rely on fossil fuels for generating electricity. So if you're mostly charging your EV with energy from coal or natural gas, that timeline stretches out a lot longer than 50,000 miles, and you might end up with higher overall emissions than you originally thought. Now, here's a mind-bending thought. What happens to EVs when they hit their limit? Spoiler alert, the story doesn't end once they reach the junkyard. In the next few years alone, millions of these electric vehicles will reach the end of the line. So what do we do with all those batteries? Right now, fewer than 5% of lithium-ion batteries are being recycled effectively. That's a pretty scary statistic. The recycling of EV batteries isn't just an easy fix, it's complicated and costs a good chunk of change. If we're not careful with where and how we dispose of these batteries, toxic substances could leak into our precious soil and groundwater, endangering the health of communities located near landfills or waste incinerators. Getting a grip on these issues is vital for consumers looking to make environmentally sound choices in transportation. When we talk about electric vehicles, the narrative often paints them as the ultimate solution for cost savings and environmental benefits. It's like a shiny new toy that promises to make your life easier while saving the planet. But hold on a second. If you dig a little deeper and really analyze the numbers, you'll quickly realize that this happy little story might actually be sitting on some pretty shaky foundations. A house of cards built on lies. Let's start with what seems like a straightforward win, charging your EV at home. It looks like an easy way to save money, right? After all, who wouldn't want to say goodbye to skyrocketing gas prices? On the surface, it seems amazing. Home electricity rates are significantly lower than what you'd pay at public charging stations. Charging your electric vehicle at home can be quite economical, with average costs ranging from about $0.05 to $0.63 per kilowatt hour, depending on the time of year and local rates. However, if you opt for public charging, prepare for a significant price jump. Public chargers can charge as much as $1.50 per kilowatt hour, which means that charging in public could cost you up to 20 times more than charging at home. This stark contrast underscores the financial benefits of home charging for EV owners. So it's easy to think that home charging is a jackpot for savings. However, not everyone is lucky enough to have a home charger at their fingertips. This is where the public charging stations come into play. They are a lifesaver for people who don't own a home charger, making electric vehicles accessible for a wider audience. However, many public chargers use sneaky pricing strategies that can lead to unexpected expenses. For instance, many stations add idle fees, meaning you'll get charged extra if your car stays plugged in after the battery is fully charged. The goal is to encourage you to remove your vehicle so that others can charge. And don't forget about surge pricing. Just like your favorite ride-sharing app, rates can skyrocket during peak usage times, which can leave you scratching your head and reeling from unexpected charges. Suddenly, the whole idea of saving money by going electric starts to feel less like a reality and more like a distant dream. Now, let's look ahead at future electricity pricing, because this is where things get even trickier. As the world races to embrace renewable energy sources, the implications for how we pay for electricity are monumental. The ultimate hope is that these clean energy marvels will stabilize or even reduce costs down the line. But guess what? In the short term, you might want to brace yourself, because electricity prices could experience a roller coaster of a ride. Why? Well, it all comes down to demand. With millions of electric vehicles charging up every night, the pressure on our electrical grid is bound to increase. Experts are predicting that your power bills could start to soar. Now let's pivot to another significant aspect of EV economics: depreciation. The world of electric vehicles is moving faster than a speeding bullet. Manufacturers, especially players like Tesla, are fighting tooth and nail for market share, which leads to drastic price cuts on new models. What does that mean for existing owners of electric vehicles? Data shows that while traditional gasoline-powered cars typically depreciate at a consistent pace, electric vehicles are experiencing far sharper declines in value. Some estimates indicate that used Tesla models could lose a staggering 30% of their value within just 3 years. This rapid drop-off is due to several factors, including fierce competition and advancements in battery technology that make older models less appealing. This depreciation also affects financing options and can seriously dampen overall satisfaction with your ownership experience. And to make matters even worse, EVs struggle with one major thing: reliability. Let's talk about that for a sec. More problems than moving parts. Electric vehicles vehicles promise a greener alternative to traditional cars, but beneath the eco-friendly appeal, a more complex story emerges. According to an eye-opening report by Consumer Reports, these electric wonders are an astonishing 80% more likely to run into issues than their traditional internal combustion engine cousins. That statistic is truly shocking. It should make anyone considering making the switch to electric hit the brakes and reassess what they're getting into. There's a common belief floating around that electric vehicles, since they have fewer moving parts, ought to be more reliable. But guess what? The data reveals a completely different picture. Owners of electric vehicles are complaining about a litany of problems across various categories. From the electric drive motors to the crucial charging systems, it seems like the issues just keep piling up. So what's behind this paradox? Well, it turns out these modern electric cars are still in the growing up phase. While the technology itself is impressive, manufacturers are learning to navigate this relatively new territory. All that advanced tech and innovation can lead to an increased rate of malfunctions, especially when compared to traditional gas-powered vehicles that have had decades, yes, decades, of meticulous refinement and improvement. Now, let's dig deeper into the specific issues that electric vehicle owners are facing. The list is long enough to make anyone's head spin. First up, battery problems. Many owners report everything from diminished battery capacity over time to catastrophic battery failures that could leave you completely stranded. Talk about a nightmare. Then there's the pesky software glitches. As these high-tech vehicles increasingly rely on complex software to operate, glitches pop up, leading to significant inconveniences. Let's also touch on the build quality. Reports of misaligned doors, rattling interiors, and cheap materials can make any new EV buyer feel shortchanged. All these problems not only leave owners feeling frustrated, they also raise red flags about whether electric vehicles can actually provide reliable transportation in the long run. Now, you might be wondering what happens when your electric vehicle does develop a problem. That's where things get even stickier. Unlike traditional gas-powered cars, where you can pretty much find a mechanic on every corner, EV repairs often require specialized skills and knowledge. Unfortunately, many traditional mechanics simply don't possess the expertise or the right equipment to tackle these advanced technologies effectively. So, what happens? You're often left waiting for what feels like an eternity without your car while you navigate the hunt for a skilled technician who can actually help. The parts needed to fix these high-tech machines, like batteries and electric motors, don't come cheap either. Those complex electric drivetrains mean repairs can hit you in the wallet much harder than a traditional vehicle repair would. And as if the challenges of ownership and repairs weren't enough, let's talk about the software risks that come with electric vehicles. These cars depend heavily on over-the-air updates to keep everything running smoothly. But while over-the-air updates sound fantastic, one of the most alarming risks is the possibility of bricking your vehicle. Yes, you heard that right. This happens if something goes wrong during an update, leaving your car completely inoperable. That's a nightmare scenario for any driver. Additionally, if you park your vehicle in an area with poor connectivity, it might miss important updates or fail to install them correctly. And don't think the updates are always an improvement. They can sometimes change how the user interface works or make features people loved go away entirely. That can lead to a frustrating experience for drivers who preferred things the way they were. I mean, have you ever stopped to think about the real motives behind the surge in electric vehicle adoption? What is the real reason? Now, the push for these zero-emission cars has become a critical part of environmental policy around the globe. As governments ramp up efforts to encourage us to jump into electric cars, the implications stretch way beyond mere emissions reductions. In fact, it feels like there's a more insidious plot at play, one that aims to seize control over our lives in ways we may not even be aware of yet. You see, we're talking about everything from generous tax breaks and rebates for those who purchase EVs to massive government funding for building charging stations everywhere you look. It's pretty much a full court press to get folks into electric vehicles. But wait, don't be fooled. These carrots are often accompanied by some hefty sticks. Take a look at the strict emissions regulations popping up in many regions. These rules effectively ban the sale of new internal combustion engine vehicles by the year 2030 or 2035. That's not just a little nudge in the right direction. It's a dramatic policy shift that goes beyond encouragement to downright mandate. Suddenly, consumers find themselves coerced into adopting technologies they may not want or even be ready for. So here's the real question. Are we genuinely being presented with a choice? Or is this an orchestrated push towards a future where EVs reign supreme? Digging a little deeper reveals even more about the real motivations behind this aggressive drive for electric vehicles. Western nations are waking up to the harsh reality of their reliance on imported oil, particularly from regions known for their instability. Meanwhile, China has successfully positioned itself as a major player in the electric vehicle market, controlling a significant portion of the supply chains for crucial materials like lithium and cobalt. So when you think about the urgent call to switch to electric vehicles, the push for electric vehicles isn't just about environmental goals. It's also a strategic move by Western governments to reduce reliance on foreign oil and counter China's growing influence in the auto industry. And as these sweeping policies take root, we begin to see how they provide governments with unprecedented control over our personal transportation choices. For instance, a number of cities are now exploring low-emission zones where only electric vehicles will be allowed to operate. This effectively creates barriers for those who can't afford an electric vehicle or choose to stick with a traditional gas-powered car. This newfound control breeds serious concerns regarding personal freedom. By mandating specific technologies and narrowing acceptable alternatives, governments risk stepping on our rights and personal choices. But hang on, a significant point to consider is how our growing reliance on electric vehicles means increasing dependence on the power grid. Picture this, a future where your ability to simply drive a car hinges on energy availability or government-imposed restrictions on charging times during peak demand hours. What used to be a matter of personal choice starts to morph into a regulated commodity subject to bureaucratic control. The agenda surrounding electric vehicles is layered, each layer more complex than it may initially appear. The road ahead should prioritize fostering individual freedoms while ensuring sustainable practices blend harmoniously with our day-to-day lives. If we aren't careful, we risk trading autonomy for progress under the guise of a greener future. After all, we wouldn't want to surrender our autonomy in the name of a greener tomorrow without fully understanding what we are signing up for, would we? When take a step back and look at the big picture, governments are assuring us that charging stations will soon be as common as gas stations, and that pesky issue of range anxiety will vanish into thin air. But when you step outside of this idealized vision, what greets you? A harsh slap in the face with the hard truths about the reality facing us. The infrastructure that is desperately needed to support millions upon millions of electric vehicles. It's not just lacking, it's abysmally poorly planned. Let me explain. The infrastructure mirage, a road to nowhere. Sure, in some urban areas, you might find an adequate number of charging stations. However, in rural areas where access is limited and infrastructure timelines keep slipping, people are left frustrated and questioning the feasibility of the electric revolution. Let's get down to the nitty-gritty and crunch some numbers. Ever heard there are about 150,000 public charging stations scattered across the United States? Seems impressive, right? But hold on. When you factor in the staggering statistic that there are over 270 million registered vehicles on the road, that one charging station for every 1,800 vehicles doesn't seem so grand after all. It's nowhere near as convenient as the traditional gas stations we've long relied on. And get this, it's shocking to learn that studies show nearly 40% of Americans reside in rural areas where charging infrastructure is either sparse or flat out non-existent. This creates a massive roadblock for potential EV buyers living outside metropolitan regions, effectively stalling the uptake of these environmentally friendly rides. But don't think this situation only affects those in rural areas. Nope. For city folks without access to private garages or designated parking spots, the challenges of charging an electric vehicle seem to multiply exponentially. The truth is that many apartment complexes in urban areas lack overnight charging options, deterring potential EV owners and widening existing transportation access disparities. Now, let's talk about charging times, because they are a real sticking point. While technology has improved by leaps and bounds, many public chargers still take anywhere from 30 minutes to several hours to fully charge your vehicle. Just think about that. What a stark contrast to the quick pit stops we're used to with gas-powered cars. Picture setting off on a road trip, excitement high, only to find yourself stopping frequently at sparse charging stations with long wait times. The delays and constant worry about finding an available charger turn your adventure into a logistical headache. Not quite the smooth, carefree EV experience you were promised, is it? Oh, the allure of electric vehicles. Cleaner air, fewer emissions, and that dream of a sustainable future. It all sounds so appealing. Yet, without addressing significant infrastructure shortcomings, this vision may remain just a dream, as consumers navigate this complex landscape filled with obstacles and frustrations, it's becoming glaringly evident that making a truly sustainable transportation system a reality takes more than just innovative technology. It calls for robust infrastructure development that meets the diverse needs of all users. So what now? As we witness the electric vehicle revolution unfold, something interesting is happening in the minds of consumers, which is marked by a growing skepticism of electric vehicles being the ultimate answer to our transportation challenges. Now, here's a surprising statistic. Nearly 80% of European car buyers are excited about the prospect of owning an EV in the future. However, there's a significant 22% who are not convinced. This skepticism isn't just a passing trend. It serves as a strong demand for greater transparency and accountability from the electric vehicle industry. This burgeoning consciousness has sparked a spirited resistance against the electric vehicle narrative, with numerous consumers advocating for their rights. They want the freedom to choose their preferred mode of transportation without feeling pressured to switch to electric vehicles. The message is loud and clear. People are looking for options that are in tune with their lifestyles and personal needs, rather than a blanket, one-size-fits-all solution dictated by government regulations or corporate interests. Within this environment of skepticism, alternative technologies are gaining momentum. A key player making strides in this arena is Toyota, which is leading the way with substantial investments in hydrogen fuel cells and ammonia-powered engines. These are innovative technologies that hold the promise of providing cleaner energy solutions while avoiding some of the common issues linked to battery electric vehicles. Hydrogen fuel cells stand out by offering quick refueling times alongside longer driving ranges, effectively addressing two significant concerns for drivers who dread the thought of being stuck at charging stations for an extended period. As companies like Toyota delve into these alternatives, they are doing more than just innovating. They are sending a powerful message that there are alternative routes available that do not rely strictly on battery technology. This innovative diversification could ultimately lead to more choices for consumers, while also nurturing healthy competition in the automotive market. But the questions regarding an exclusively electric future aren't just being raised by consumers. Several prominent automotive companies are also expressing their concerns. Major brands like BMW, Porsche, Honda, and Mercedes have begun to voice their reservations about the full-scale push for electrification. These manufacturers point to potential problems like vulnerabilities in the supply chain for battery materials, environmental concerns associated with the production and disposal of batteries, and finally, the economic ramifications of a hasty transition away from traditional internal combustion engines. These industry leaders advocate for a more tempered approach, one that embraces hybrid models and alternative fuels alongside electric vehicles. Their push for diversity in automotive technology reflects an understanding that different geographical regions and consumer needs can lead to varied preferences when it comes to vehicle types. Central to this resistance is a fundamental principle: consumer choice. While governments are enacting policies designed to encourage electric vehicle adoption, often through incentives or even the outright banning of combustion engines, the need for maintaining consumer autonomy is increasingly paramount. The call for choice strikes a chord in today's marketplace. Many consumers are coming to realize that while electric vehicles may offer certain advantages, they aren't universally applicable answers to all transportation needs. Factors such as driving habits, geographic locations, and personal preferences play a significant role in determining which type of vehicle truly caters to individual requirements. This growing resistance against a sole focus on electric vehicles is a clear indication of a collective demand for freedom and choice. It champions a movement that acknowledges the need for diverse solutions tailored to meet the varied needs of consumers, rather than forcing everyone into a single mold. The future of transportation should emerge from informed choices, not coercive agendas, allowing each driver to navigate their own path forward in an ever-evolving world of automobiles. What's your thoughts on this? Let's know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next video.